What's up guys, welcome to this video. In this video, we're gonna dive into why I like selling high ticket products. Low ticket is gay. I actually just saw a video on YouTube that said the exact opposite. And so I really felt I needed to make this video because so many of you are getting these price points wrong. And it's probably the most important part of your business, to be honest. And we're gonna dive into why that is and how to actually regulate that properly in just a second. The reason I know this is because over the last 3.5 years, we have worked with more than 300 plus agency owners one-on-one and helped them grow past that $60,000 a month mark, which many of them have done. We've had a couple people reach 6 figures and multi-6 figures a month as well, all in profits. I never talk revenue. And we also had one person reach 7 figures a month, but that's a story for another day. I've also been able to break through that $60,000 a month in profit mark myself twice. And so I would say we're pretty qualified to talk about this. And I'm gonna dive into two parts of this in just a second. The first part of it is why you should sell high ticket in the first place, why it just makes more sense. And the second part of it is the intricacies that it brings with it. So we're gonna dive into everything, and after this video, you'll know what to charge, you'll know how to charge, you'll know when to charge what, you'll know why it is important to charge that way, and the impacts it has on your business. So the first thing that we need to understand, and by the way, the good thing about this, just one more thing that I want to mention, is that this is one of the easiest fixes you can make in your business in general, in your agency, whether you're running a marketing agency, whether you're running a consulting agency, it really doesn't matter. This is one of the easiest fixes you can make happen because it literally just takes one decision in a split moment to either raise your price or just adjust it in a certain way. And you can quite literally double, quadruple your company revenue and profits that way, specifically profits, but we're gonna get into that in just a second. So why is selling high ticket the way to go? Why is selling low ticket gay? Like, what is behind that in the first place? What's my thought pattern there? A couple of things. Why is it important? Well, we want to sell high ticket. The reason we want to sell high ticket is for a variety of reasons. The first one is that as an entrepreneur in general, you're in business to make money, okay? And you can really only, if we try to have a black and white approach to this, just to simplify it, there's really only two routes to this. The first route to it is that you say, okay, I have a big audience, I have a massive amount of eyeballs, and I want to monetize, and so I'll bring out a low ticket product or something that's on the lower end of the pricing spectrum that suits all of these people's needs, and I'm just going to make sure that they buy. Very, very simple thought pattern right there. Now, what I am going to say is that this also works. It's not like, high ticket is the way to go and everyone who sells low ticket is an idiot, because that's quite clearly not the case, right? There's many billionaires that have become billionaires through selling products for like a couple dollars or even less than that, right? If you look at, for example, what Rihanna did, this was like a year ago. Rihanna is obviously a worldwide, well-known pop star, or whatever you want to call it. Because she has such a massive audience and so many people know her, but her audience is, just the general public, she can't sell high ticket. She can, but that wouldn't appeal to her specific target audience, because her specific target audience is the general public. It's not business owners, it's not people with money. Maybe some of them are in that audience, but majority are just normal average people. And so she brought out a clothing line, and I think she became a billionaire because of that, or she was one before, I'm not quite sure. My point being, she made a lot of money with it, which brings me to my point. If you sell low ticket, the only way to make a lot of money is to have a lot of attention. Like, you actually need to be quite famous for you to be able to make a lot of money with low ticket. And by the way, when I'm talking about a lot of money, I'm not referring to making like 10K a month. Anyone can do that with really anything. I'm saying this if you're the type of person that wants to make, a decent amount of money, anything 6 figures a month and above, and really build longevity and long-term wealth with this. It is extremely hard to do that with low ticket because, and this is my opinion, right? But everything is an opinion. Nothing is a fact out there. But in my opinion, based on everything that we've seen with all of the partners that we worked with, as well as our own businesses, it is always way easier to have a small niche audience that buys high ticket products than to have a massive amount of eyeballs look at your stuff and get to know you. It's easier to be a niche authority, a business owner as a niche authority, than it is to get, into the realms of being as famous as, Mr. Beast and stuff. Now, obviously you don't have to be as famous as Mr. Beast to be able to make that amount of money, but like, my point being, I'll give you a really good example. If you look at Hamza, some of you guys might be familiar with him. He has about 2 million subscribers, I think, on YouTube. He's also pretty big on Instagram. He has a lot of following, a large following that he's built up over the years. And he's currently making about, I think, 300K a month, maybe 400K, depending on the upsells he has and the different structures he's running. So he's making good money. The thing is, Hamza is really famous. Like, pretty much everyone in the self-improvement space knows who he is. And we've just seen this with all of the business owners that we've worked with. If you're a business owner, it is way easier for you to become a niche authority and build those structures and sell high ticket than it is to become famous and well known. That's just a fact, right? Based on what we've seen and our perspective on this. And so, can you make a lot of money selling low ticket? 100% you can, but we just think it's not a smart decision and not a smart move to make, because you have to attract a large audience to be able to monetize that at that level, okay? And so the other way to do it, which is what I just partly explained, is you just sell a high ticket product to a niche audience. And all of you watching this video should be familiar with this term and what this means. It means you basically go into one specific market, you target one specific ideal client, and you push out content, whether that's organic content, ads, outreach infrastructure, whatever that may be. You push out that marketing just to that one specific ideal client. This video isn't going to be watched by a lot of people and consumed by millions. No chance, because this video is so niche. Only a very specific type of person is going to watch this video, and that's why it works so well. Okay, so we want to have a niche audience. I think that's clear. I think we understand that. Okay, why do we want to sell high ticket? That was the first point. The first point is that it's just easier to make more money with it quicker as the average business owner, because the only way to make a lot of money with low ticket is to be very well known. And it's easier to make a lot of money than to be very well known. And this is just our observation. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is that when you sell high ticket, you make more money. Duh, makes a lot of sense, right? If you sell something for $6,000 comparatively to something for $3,000, you make more money. Now, the interesting thing, and this is the interesting part that I really need you to pay attention to here, is that we have seen, based on the data that we have received from working with a lot of our partners, our clients, and our own companies as well, we've seen that people who raise their price rarely encounter much lower close rates. So let me just break this down in a spectrum real quick, okay? So we have two parts to this. We have the amount of money you charge, and we have the amount of people who are willing to pay at that price point, right? Now, people believe that if you charge, say, this price point right here, you'll have this amount of people buying. But if you charge, say, this price point right here, you'll only have this amount of people buying, right? The interesting thing is that's not quite the case. It is actually not the case at all. And obviously there's a lot of intricacies that tie into this. It depends on your specific business. It depends on, your specific scenario. And so what makes the most amount of sense for your specific company, for your specific agency, is always a bit case by case dependent. That's also why we work with people one-on-one, because you can really only find out these things in a personalized way. But fundamentally speaking, if we look at it from a high level perspective, if you charge, say you have the exact same product, exact same value. Say you normally, on average, make your clients 40 grand over the time of working together, okay, in total cash collected. And you charge, say, 3,000 for your service. If you now raise that price to, say, 7,900, people would believe that the amount of people that would purchase at that price point would massively drop off. But that is not quite the case, because as you know, this is just basic human psychology. People who look at, buying products, look at, purchasing a certain service, will look at the price point as a reference of the value and the quality of service that's going to be delivered. And so If you charge way more than everyone else in your competition, people are going to assume that you play in a completely different category than them. And so if we look at this on a scale, what ends up happening is this. We have, let me just go a bit deeper right here. There we go. We have price point and we have the amount of people that buy. Now, what we'll do is we will test how high we can bring the price. So say in the beginning, your price point is here, which is, I don't know, say just as an example, $700 in the beginning. And at the price point of $700, you have, say, this amount of people buying. Now we raise the price point to, say, whatever that may be, say this is 6K, right? Say we raise it up to 6,000. We might have, this amount of people buying. Now, the thing is, if we look at how much profit the business is generating, this just makes logical sense because you have less clients and you make more money, which ties into a couple other points I want to dive into in just a second. What you do with prices, and this is how you test what price is applicable to you if you're not quite sure if this is the right move for you right now. How you test prices is really simple. You raise your price, right? And you just start testing it. And you raise that price up until you find a ceiling, because there is going to be a ceiling to this, right? At some point, close rates are going to suffer massively. So what you want to do is you want to continuously test the price. Say in this scenario, we said, okay, $700 is the starting point. And we go up and we still have a lot of people buying, right? Maybe the close rate dips a bit, but it really doesn't matter because we're making that much more profit. And then we raise it up to, say, 6,000. And we still have a solid amount of people buying at this price point. And then we say, okay, we want to, get it even higher. And then we test, say, 7,000. And at 7,000, it's still fine. And then we test 8,000. And at 8,000, we have a massive plateau. We put the price at 7K and call it a day. That rhymes, so it's true. Okay? So this is how you test price. You just have to find where the most amount of friction lies when it comes to the price point. Why do you want to do that? Well, because the more you raise the price, the higher the what? Not the revenue. Obviously, that's also part of it, but the higher the profits. Because everything you add on top initially for your price point is just pure profit. Like, the price point that you have at 700 already factors in the cost of you paying your employees, you paying your softwares, you paying for everything that you need to pay for. It already factors in your margin. And so when you raise price, it just becomes pure profit. What does this mean? This ties into the next point. So we have point number one, the money. Point number two, we have, say, we could call this just the profits, whatever we want to call this. Point number three, and this is really important, we can call this team. If you make more money, and all of this is very logical, as you can see, none of this is like, science and super complicated. It's actually really simple, but in practice, it just needs to be executed well. And so point number three is team. What do I mean by team? Well, if you charge thousands of dollars more for your product, what does that enable you to do? It enables you to hire better team members. The quality of team members goes up. Meaning the quality of your service goes up as well. Meaning your client results go up. And if your client results go up, what is happening? Marketing becomes cheaper. And if your marketing becomes cheaper, your LTV to CAC ratio is better. This is the most important ratio in any agency whatsoever, LTV to CAC. What does LTV to CAC stand for? For all of the ones that are not familiar with this, LTV stands for lifetime value, meaning how much is the average client paying you throughout their entire lifetime. And then CAC is cost per acquisition, meaning the LTV to CAC ratio in our scenario should never, ever, 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 ever be below 3:1. So you should make at least triple what you spend per acquisition on the lifetime of a customer. Okay, 3:1 is like the minimum. Ideally, we want this to be a 4:1. Okay, again, to go back to this, when we raise price, we raise profit. When we have more profit, more cash in the business, because cash is like oxygen to a business, okay? When we have more cash in the business, we're able to hire better team members for the backend. Better team members on the backend result in better client results. Better client results result in better marketing and more proof. Better marketing and more proof result in a lower cost per acquisition. And a lower cost per acquisition results in this ratio being better and you being able to spend more money to acquire customers, which makes your competition go out of business. If you can spend 2 grand to acquire a client because your LTV is that high, but your competitor can only spend 1 grand, you outbid them and they go bankrupt. That is how business works. And so this is why price points are so important. People don't understand this. People throw around this word of price point as like a thing that's just there, and people get it that it's important, but they think, yeah, I can raise my price and that's really everything there is to it. No, that's not how it works. You have all of these reasons, and there's more to it, by the way. You have all of these reasons as to why it's important to charge high prices, okay? And what you need to do is you need to test the price point up until you hit that ceiling, and this is where you fixate your price point. Because this is where you have the highest amount of profit, meaning the best team members, meaning the best client results, meaning the lowest CAC, meaning the best LTV to CAC ratio, which is the most important metric to track in any agency, period. Okay. This was super important to understand, okay? So now let's go back to this. So the first point that we mentioned, it's easier to make more money because it's easier to make money comparatively to being famous. Point number 2 was you have more profits in the business, which leads into point number 3, you have a better team. A better team leads to better client results, etc., and so on and so forth. We just talked about that. Point number 4, and this is a really, really simple point and very understandable as well. The goal as a business owner is to make money. And the issue is that a lot of agency owners, especially at the beginning stages when they first make their first money, they don't understand that in their business, they need to prioritize their own pocket as well. So let me just explain this. The first person you pay, or the first people you pay, is your team. They are the most important to get paid first before yourself. But once the team is paid, once all the expenses are paid, once taxes are paid, and you're like the last one that gets paid, you need to take personal profit as well. People leave the profit in the business because they always want to reinvest in the business and make it grow, and that's amazing and you should do that. But you should have a certain percentage of the amount of money that you make paid to yourself and just sitting in your private bank account. Why? Because this enables you to make more courageous decisions. If you have 500 grand sitting in your private bank account, you're fine with risking more in the business because you know no matter what, you'll be fine. You have runway to recoup, okay? Really important, cool. That's that. Okay, next part of why higher prices equals, it's just better. Higher prices are also better because clients are immediately seeing better results, client results. Why are clients seeing better results? We just spoke about team before. Even if we disregard the fact that you can spend more to make the backend better, get better client results, even if we disregard that completely, if you charge higher prices, the clients that you get, and this is a couple of things, the clients that you get are A, more committed. The commitment is just that much higher, because if someone pays 5 figures, so say 15,000 comparatively to 6,000, their commitment is way higher, which means they will put more energy, more resources, and more focus and more time into making sure that the project you guys are working on together goes well. Why is this important? This is important because no matter what service you're providing, the client always plays a part in the success of the project. Because unless you run their entire business for them, which isn't going to be your service realistically speaking, they are still relevant in the results. And so the more committed they are, the better results are going to be in place. The next thing is that the higher you charge, the better the placebo effect kicks in. Why? Because, well, if they see a price point of $15,000 comparatively to $6,000, they're going to assume the results are better. They're going to assume the value is better. They're going to assume that the quality of delivery is better. What does this mean? In real time, it becomes better because the placebo effect is a real thing. If you don't know what the placebo is, look it up on Google after this video. That's not really important to understand. So they're more committed. The placebo effect kicks in as well. And that just makes the results way better in the first place, okay? And this, again, this is not even factoring in the fact that you have more money for the backend to make the team and the systems better, that gets better client results again. And this is a whole upcycle, because the better your client results, the better your marketing, the better your client results. And this is why companies grow so quickly sometimes. This is why you have this exponential growth curve of these companies, because they get good client results, meaning their marketing gets better, meaning they get more clients that get even better client results. And it's a whole upcycle like this. But the thing is, this also works the other way around if you go the low ticket route, okay? And so this is why charging high ticket is so incredibly important. And if you watched this video and you don't yet understand why charging high ticket is the smartest and best thing you can do, and why charging more specifically is the smartest and best thing you can do, you did not listen to what I just broke down at all. The only reason as to why you would prefer selling low ticket over high ticket is because you are well known and you have a massive audience. That's the only reason. And don't come at me with, oh, but you can get low ticket retainers and recurring revenue. Bro, you can also get high ticket retainers. How about that? No one's stopping you from getting recurring revenue from high ticket deals. Okay, cool, perfect. In addition to that, you need less clients to make more money, meaning less headaches for you and a more enjoyable business. That's it for this video. That is literally it. If you want to see more videos like these, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. If you have any questions, put them down below in the comment section. Make sure to go in the description of this video right now and watch the next video that I have linked right there. It says, you know, the title is something around how I grew 2 agencies plus 60K a month in profit, did it within 7 weeks. It's a 1.5 hour masterclass. I hosted it at the most luxurious hotel in Munich about half a year ago with some of my clients and partners, and it went really well. It's very valuable. Good watch. I would recommend you watch that right now if you want to see more of this type of value. And outside of that, you can also reach out to me on Instagram. I will also link my Instagram down below. And then I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you for listening. If you're still listening to this, you are one of the few ones that are going to be able to make it happen this year, because you don't have a fucked attention span and actually pay attention to the things that truly matter to you. So that's it for the video. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.